We go recording. So welcome in here to this space, whether this is your first time or you've been here before. I'm going to kind of guide you. I'm excited to be here. I've been traveling a bit for some weeks, and so it's nice to be, actually, I'm still traveling. I'm in Arizona, but at least I'm back in America. And so I'm grateful to be back in the homeland, right? And I invite you here to just check in. You can, if you have space to be able to do this, you can type it in the chat or just speak it to yourself. But I'm going to just ask you, this is a practice that I did when it was during COVID, and I would sit in different sanghas. Sanghas are just different groups of people meditating. And there were people from all over the world in this group. And it was very, very cool to see people that were like-minded, that wanted to be part of something bigger during that period of time when we were also isolated. So it really was helpful. And I learned something really beautiful there. It was a way to check in without identifying yourself with an emotion. Instead of saying, I am anxious, or I have fear, or I am tired, it reminds us, you give a little space and you say, there is. So you're just noticing that our feelings are not who we are. They're simply visitors that move through us. They come and they go. We talk about becoming the guest house in meditation, this idea of becoming the guest house for your emotions, that they come in, guests don't stay, right? They come and then they leave. And our emotions are like that. They're an extension of us that are always trying to get our attention. If we will just listen, pay attention. What is my loneliness trying to teach me? What is my anger wanting me to be more aware of? Why am I angry? Why am I lonely? Am I able to comfort myself, be the one who stays instead of numbing out? Okay, so let's see, let me check in here. What is here right now? There is relief and there is excitement. I'm relieved that I got here safely last night. I drove, but I love a good road trip, especially by myself, because I can listen to my music and books and sing and laugh and cry and all the things, and it was so beautiful. The weather was perfect, and so that's where I'm at today. There might be grief, there might be gratitude, and two things can exist at the same time: fear and hope, maybe. So whatever's true for you, you can simply name it silently or aloud and let it just have some space there. And I'm going to guide us really quick into just a practice to drop in. And so you can be more present with yourself and coming into the space. I first of all want to honor you for arriving here. This is an act of self-care, whether you're here right now or whether you're watching this at a later moment than this live moment. I want you to know that I see you, and your willingness to learn new things or become more curious about how your emotions work, how you could possibly have some more tools and resources to be able to sit with yourself when things feel heavy and hard, instead of numbing out or running or freezing, or what all the ways that we will do anything but feel a feeling that feels heavy. So I honor you for being here. This is a radical. It's kind of radical when we take care of ourselves differently than what we saw our mothers and our grandmothers and the women in our lives doing for themselves. So this is a radical act of self-care. Pat yourself on the back for being here. So go ahead and close your eyes if it's safe for you to do so. And just take a few deep breaths with me here, just dropping deeper, deeper into stillness with each exhale. In through your nose, out through your mouth, just breathing. No need to change it. And as you sit here, I'm going to have you bring your attention, your awareness to your mind. And imagine that there is a small pool of water there in your mind. And just become a witness to the surface of that pool. Is it stirred up? Is it swirling? Just notice and begin to let it settle. Let it become more still. As you breathe and soften and relax, just notice that pool begin to become more still. And now, when you're ready, go ahead and bring your awareness down from the still pool of water in your mind, down to your heart space. And imagine that there's a pool of water there. It's bigger than the pool in your mind. Just notice what's moving there in your heart. This is deeper, wider pool. Let yourself breathe in and out from your heart as if your heart had lungs. Allow it to literally open with every inhale, this heart space, this pool. As it opens and softens and becomes more still, just become aware of any emotions, any things that are on your heart. With every exhale, just release what feels burdened and heavy. And allow your pool to continue to still. A surface like glass. Just breathing here. And now, dropping down like a pebble through these pools. Dropping down from your heart pool, down into your sacred bowl, your womb space. In Sanskrit, we call this the yoni, which is the cosmic mother womb. And it's very beautiful. This is your widest, deepest pool. It is a place of wisdom, of intuition. That's why we say, my gut, I can feel it in my gut. I trust my gut. This is where the creation of all life force begins. Your chi, your prana energy is in this space for male and female. But for us females, it seems to be more potent because so much is going on there at all times, right? Whether we're having our moon cycle still, whether we're in perimenopause or menopause, even if you don't have a womb anymore, you still have a womb space. You still exist, that sacred bowl, that space. So just breathing here, allow this pool, just imagine it deep and wide, becoming more still. 3 deep breaths here. Becoming aware that still waters run clear. When things are stirred up, especially water, it becomes murky, becomes difficult to see clearly. So this is a practice you can do quickly with yourself whenever you feel stirred up, when there's not clarity, when you're needing to connect with your inner guru. You slow down, you take some breaths. You can't breathe in the past or the future. You can only breathe now in presence. Remember that. Your breath is your anchor back to every now moment. And all we ever have is now. We can go to the present and the future in our minds, and we do it all the time. But to stay present is where our power lives, because we only ever have now. So when we're making choices from a now moment, we will always choose with wisdom when we're present. Literally, we'll be more willing when we're present with intention to make choices that are more aligned because we're more still. There's more clarity, always, always. And when you understand the value of the words I just spoke, the literal value of being still, slowing down, bringing clarity, tapping in, turning in and tuning in, suddenly you're standing in your power. And that is, you're become empowered with the power of love, because when we're living in these two spaces that are illusory, past and future, we're usually in more of a state of regretting or resentment when we're living in our past. This should have happened differently, or I should have done that. They should have done that differently. You can become depressed living in the past. And when we're living with thoughts of the future, which a lot of times is our painful past informing a fearful future, we don't fear the unknown. What we fear is our ideas of what the future could be based on what has happened. But do you see how we're only ever living in that space in our mind if we're not present? We're worried and then we're anxious about the future and what could happen, but we're not standing in our power in the present saying, wait, I get to control and decide what the future is based on every now moment, not living, believing that it's going to be what I haven't accepted yet about my past. So I want to talk to you about something that I've always heard this. I'm sure you've heard this statement. It's called, what you see is what you get. When you think of that statement, what do you think of? For me, what I used to believe about that statement was that I, if life is a certain way, what you see is what you get. Like, here it is. Don't try to change it. Don't resist it. Don't expect more. Just accept what's in front of you and be okay with it. And yes, that may be true, but I've come to understand this on a deeper level of awareness. As I've observed this saying, I'm like, oh my goodness, it can mean so many different things. Maybe there's still more that I haven't yet been aware of or become aware of, but there is this truth that what you're able to see or experience, what your nervous system can actually perceive and receive and feel safe letting in, is what you get. So let me explain this. We can only ever experience our lives, reality, according to what we believe to be true, what we perceive to be true, what we believe. So if we have beliefs that are really like, well, this is right and that is wrong, and there's only one way to be, and I need to be perfect, or some of the beliefs that we carry with us from when we're little kids, we come to believe things before we know better than to say, is that true or is that based in fear? We make things mean something about us. And I've talked about this a lot, so I don't want to go too deeply into that. But the things that we came to believe before we knew better, if we're still believing that and not knowing it, our belief that I don't matter, or I'm not safe, the world isn't safe, or I'm not safe to show up authentically, or I need to achieve more and be more perfect in order to have value or worth in this life, in my family, in my system, culture, whatever that is. So if we are living with a belief that we believe is true because we're suffering and it feels small, almost like a prison, guess what? Our experiences of life are going to be according to the truth that we believe, which is really small and based in fear. If we don't ever check it and we don't ever question it, is that true? So can you see how that lives in our body? It's important to know this because that fear, that belief that we are less than or separate from the things that we want, like love or joy or compassion or feeling understood, all of those things, if we feel separate from those things, we are going to be experiencing life through this one instrument in a very limited way. When we start to question, is that true? We start to let a little bit of light into this dark space. We essentially shine light on our shadow, the parts of us, the versions of us that we still won't face because they're too scary. The parts of us that felt unseen when we were younger, that still feel unseen as adults. The parts of us, the versions of us that are still lonely and still feeling like we aren't lovable, or somehow we've made mistakes that aren't forgivable. And we won't even dare look at those parts. But when we begin to say, is it true that I'm not safe to stay and hold the versions of myself? Is it really true that I can't forgive myself because I didn't know better? That I stayed so long in that relationship, or that I kept abandoning myself when I wanted to show up for myself, but I didn't know how. No one ever showed me how. So is it really true that I need to keep believing this? So when we shine the light in there and it starts to open up, guess what happens in our body? First, it starts with our thoughts and our beingness before it ends up in our body. So when we start to question, is it true? We're opening up to more love and stepping out of fear, right? This is a fear-based thing that keeps fear in our nervous systems dysregulated, shut down, right? Fight, flight, freeze, fawn, people please. Or we can step into more love and open up that fear and let a little bit of light and love in. Light and love from ourselves. We're the ones doing this for us. We're becoming the ones that stay. And so when we open up a bit, guess what starts to open? Our awareness, our consciousness, our soul. Our soul is there, but if our body is shut down, we're only experiencing life with blinders. So when we start to give light and love to the versions of us that have been waiting patiently for us to arrive and tend to them, become the guest house for them, we open up, our consciousness and our awareness opens up, and guess what life starts to become? Really different than this. It becomes this. Anything's possible. And I want to talk to you about this today. What we perceive, we only will experience our lives, our realities, according to what we believe to be true. So when we start to question, is it true that that's true? That I'm not enough? Or all the iterations of that? Or is it true that the world is not safe? Is it true that they don't love me? When you start to open up and say, well, maybe that's not true. Maybe I just came to believe that before I knew better than to ask the question. And I've been living in that my whole life. No wonder I feel less than. No wonder I feel distant from. No wonder I feel disconnected from not just others, but even myself. No wonder my nervous system is constantly shut down. I'm dysregulated. I'm always feeling anxious, or I'm always feeling sad. Guess what? There is the medicine, and the medicine is you. It lives in you. And no one showed us how. So if your body is shut down in fear, stuck in old patterns of survival, you can't see or receive the beauty, the love, the joy, even if it's all around you, because you're only seeing this. I'm going to tell you a story about myself. um, Maybe you can relate. I don't know, but I'm going to share this with you. For years, I did not know that I was living in a state of quiet survival. I would call it kind of robotic, numbed out, shut down, but I didn't know it. I didn't know it at the time. It wasn't until I started to slow down and meditate that I suddenly started to open up my awareness. But let me go back to the beginning when I'm having experiences of being shut down and not even knowing it. And the ways that I didn't know it was that I was over efforting, I was over functioning, so robotic, just taking care of everyone, making sure everyone was okay, people pleasing. um, and I cared about what everyone cared about, constantly trying to get it right for everyone else and never for myself. So self-abandonment. Now, I don't know if any of this rings true for you, but underneath all of that, what I didn't know is that I was still carrying around in this little belief system that, and it was true, I had deep grief. And if I'm really honest, anger, maybe even rage and some fear over what was happening in my marriage. And part of my ex-husband's struggles with shame-based fears. And I didn't know how to hold those feelings. No one had told me, like, oh, become the guest house, or when you stay, they actually heal. When you don't run, when you stop dismissing it or getting busier trying to avoid what's trying to speak to you. And so I numbed them. But this is what I didn't realize. You can't numb selectively. You can't think that you're just numbing pain because you're also numbing joy. And this brings emotion. You can't just numb fear, you numb connection. You can't just numb grief, you also numb love. And I didn't know this. And so I spent years numb. And I didn't even know that I was. And I missed so much beauty in so much of my life. And if I'm really honest, I wonder what sort of mother I could have been for my children if I had been less numb. And so when I started to be more still and be willing to step into a little bit more slow time, like we did at the beginning of this our time together, and let the pools of water just become more still so there could be more clarity for myself, I really believe that the value of that stillness would have been given my connection to my highest self, connected to all that is, to God, to Heavenly Father, to Source, to Spirit, to the universe, whatever you want to call it. And if I had felt more connected to that and myself, I can't help but guess that I would have been less numb and I would have been able to be more present for and with my children because I did it here first. We can't give to someone else what we've been withholding from ourselves. Thich Nhat Hanh tells this interesting, it's not a story, it's kind of a quote. He says, if you are not fully present when you are looking at, let's say, he says, an orange, and you're eating the orange and you're with the orange, but the orange isn't really there. Have you ever experienced this when you're eating food, but you're also scrolling while you're eating, or you're watching something on TV, or you're listening to a podcast and you're just eating? What's happening in that moment when you're multitasking? He says, when you're looking at an orange and you're not fully present, the orange isn't really there. And I want to share something with you as I go through about quantum physics, but I'm going to get there. But this was me. I couldn't see the orange. I couldn't experience my body, my children, or the miracle of the present moment or anything in my life to the extent that I would have hoped. Now that I know better and I'm looking back, it would be really easy for me to judge that version of me and be like, how come you couldn't figure that out? How sad that your children didn't have the most present version of you. And I've sat with that and I've held that version of me and I've given her a lot of compassion because we only ever are doing the best that we can with what we've been given and where we are in our awareness at any given moment. And that goes for every human being. We really are, all of us, doing the best that we can with what we've been given by our upbringing, by life, because of our upbringing and who we be in any given moment. When you know better, you do better. Hurt people, hurt people, and healed people heal. And so, once again, I want to honor you for being here in this space. Just keep stepping deeper, deeper into levels of healing and hope for yourself and those around you who may still feel like they're suffering. So, when I started meditating regularly, quietly, and consistently, something began to shift. And one day, I remember having an experience where I was really present with my breath, right? Anchored into the present moment. We can't breathe in the past or the future. So there I was, just breathing and realizing I was just there with myself, breathing. And something started to rise up. And it was warm and it was exhilarating. And I have to tell you, it was almost unfamiliar. And I didn't know what is this? I couldn't name it right immediately. And it didn't take long before I realized, oh, this is joy. I hadn't felt it in so long. I didn't even recognize it. And that's when I knew I was finally beginning to thaw from my deep freeze, my deep numbing freeze. And I was no longer just surviving by believing that I should be numb or that being numb was good. It wasn't until I started to receive my own attention and tending to the versions of myself that I started to thaw. And literally, that's when I started to realize I had the awareness, my awareness opened. You can't just numb sadness. When you're numb, you're numb. You're numbing everything. And I didn't know it. So if you like, I invite you to sit with yourself and see and observe and become radically self-responsible. How might you be numbing out? What are some ways that you numb out? Because we all have our ways, whether it's scrolling or shopping or living in the past or the future. We get addicted to that, not being present. Maybe it's gossiping. All the ways that we project our pain out and numb out, just be aware, because once you're aware, then you can change it. You can't change what you're not aware of. So this is a teaching from quantum physics. And if you've spent any time with me at all, you know how much I geek out on quantum physics and the illusions, the illusory states of time and space. We're in a three-dimensional world, right? But the fourth dimension is time. And I'm not going to get into all of that. What I want to get into is the idea, the principle of the observer effect. So we are divided. I don't know how to get into this without it becoming too long, and I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to stay in the realm of the observer effect in the quantum world, like quantum particles and quanta, and we don't just have a body, right? We have organs in our body and tissues, and all of these things make up our bodies. But what are the issues or the tissues and the organs made of? Our issues. We need tissues for our issues, but our tissue and our organs are made up of cells, and our cells are made up of membranes, and our membranes are made up of particles of quantum particles. And our quantum particles are actually, they know now that they're made up of energy. They're not matter yet, because we live in a world where everything exists energetically as a state of possibility. So every quantum particle that lives inside of all of our tissues and makes up our bodies, and this laptop and this pillow and this bed, everything has quantum particles in it. And within those just minuscule particles is every possibility that could ever exist for that thing, for us. Isn't that crazy? And it everything exists in the state of possibility until it's observed. Okay, so let me explain that. They exist as quantum particles that are actually just energy, and they exist as waves and particles of energy until they are observed, and then they take on form. So, where our attention goes, our energy flows, right? So, I'm going to stay right here because I want to explain something later about this. But what we give our attention to, what we're looking at or talking about or thinking about, our energy goes. So now the energy of our observation, whether it's through thought or words, the energy flows, and frequency, energy precedes matter. Frequency precedes form. So literally, what we are giving our attention to becomes matter. It becomes observed and it becomes form. So that's what I want to speak to you today. So the moment we are living in our past, in the now moments when we're living in our past and our future, do you understand where your attention is going and where your energy is flowing? To states of being that are an illusion. We create these images in our minds of the painful past, and we keep going there. Do you wonder why we're depressed? We're growing the very thing that we fear the most. And go the other direction. When we give our attention and our energy to the thoughts of fear and anxiety of what could be, if it's like that, then I don't want to exist it. And when we're doing this, we're giving our power away. We forgot, oh my gosh, I get to choose in every now moment who I be. I am going to be compassionate with myself, and I'm going to choose love over fear. I'm going to accept that happened, those things happened in my past, but what if they happened for a purpose? What if they happened to actually teach me really, really important lessons? Like, is it true that that's true? So I can wake up and start opening up my body, my heart, my life to joy, to love, to peace, to abundance and beauty, because I'm living in my present moment and not building these two states of illusions that are keeping me depressed and anxious and not ever here now. And we only ever are here now. We go to these places all the time, but we can only do it now. We can't do it in the future. Try to go to tomorrow or to yesterday. You can't do it. You only ever have now. And so this is important information to have. So if our body doesn't feel safe to observe because it's stuck in fear, it won't become real. The joy, the abundance, all the things can't come into being and to form into matter in our reality if we keep choosing to be numb and live in fear right over here in this little prison. Does this make sense? I hope it does if you're watching this. I hope I'm explaining it in a way where you can feel the value of slowing down just a little bit to create new neural pathways of awareness that, oh, I'm numb. I'm living in my past and my future because I don't know how, I don't want to, but I'm going to try to stay here, become the guest house for my emotions and actually learn from them so I can stop running in fear or numbing in fear. So when your body starts to soften, you start to feel safe, safe in your body. Oh, I'm safe to trust myself because I know I'm going to stay. I'm going to be the one who stays and actually holds all the versions of me that I ever judged for not getting it right, for making mistakes. Could you have ever gotten it wrong? Think of what you learned because of those mistakes. How do we ever learn in this curriculum of life if we're never willing to make a mistake and learn? So did you ever get it wrong? Or was it just perfectly exactly how it was supposed to be because it happened just that way? How does that feel in your nervous system when you start to understand that you can't get life wrong? Everything you've done has never been wrong, or it would have been different. It would have played out in a different way. And if it did, then that would have been right too, because you would have learned something. This life is a curriculum, and we are in it to learn and grow and expand from the illusion that we are anything but abundance and love and joy. We have never been separate from our soul, and yet we needed to come experience that feeling of separateness in order to remember. You can't remember what you haven't forgotten. So we came to remember our wholeness. And think about it. When we are whole, we are perfect. Perfect in the sense that we are, all the parts of us have been forgiven and welcomed back home. and we are whole. We're not judging anything anymore. We're not judging ourselves. When we judge ourselves, pay attention. We give that judgment to others, but we think it's about them, but it really is a reflection of what's living in here. If there's a war in here, I promise you it's coming out here, and we get really judgmental. Pay attention. When we are judging anything, it's because it first existed here, or it wouldn't be happening out here. So when we have held and forgiven and loved on, tended to, listened to all the versions of us that have felt unseen, unwanted, alone, angry, sad, and just ever wanted to be seen and all of those things, and thinking that another person had to see us for us to feel whole. No, it's you are the one you've been waiting for. It's you, it's us. This is where things are going to start to change and shift in our world because I see it. I sit with enough people and I see them waking up, becoming less numb, having more joy, literally becoming free from the prison, the things that they came to believe about themselves, about life and this world and others before they knew better than to question, is that really true? So when they shed some light on it and they hold it, your body opens, your body softens, and you start to feel safe again. And your lens opens up, and the good, the beauty, all the joy and the love can land. And the orange, you can see it. Have you ever been present when you're actually eating something? You're not thinking about anything but how that ripe, beautiful, warm, fresh orange, when you take a bite, and what does it taste like? How does it explode in your mouth? What is the texture? I mean, have you ever tried to eat being present, something that you really, really enjoy? Maybe it's not an orange. Maybe it's gelato. Maybe it's really dark chocolate, just letting it sit on your tongue and just dissolve and melt. So yes, what you see is what you get, but it's your body's state of safety that is going to determine what you see. Or really, if we go back from there, what you believe or perceive to be true is how you're going to experience life. If it's small like this, you're looking out of a little peephole. If you open up your beliefs and start to question with a lens of love, is it really true that I'm not safe? And you start to open up, your body opens up and you soften. And guess what? All of life, all of the good gets to just start, all abundance starts to flow in. We have 4 states of primal feeling in our humanity. It's fear, anger, grief. I've said this before, and joy. Joy is a 4th primal emotion. How often are we feeling joy? And I ask that question because of my lived experience. I didn't know that I was disconnected from myself, numbed out, and it was impossible for me to experience joy, but I didn't know it until I actually felt it. And then I was surprised because it was so unfamiliar. So I'm going to ask you a few questions and I'm going to send these in an email to you at the end, but you can hold them as you listen to them and you can write them down or do them for yourself when you get the email. But the first one is, where in my life am I still seeing through the lens of protection, like a wall, rather than presence? Where in my life am I still seeing through the lens of fear, protection, rather than presence? Our fear thinks it's protecting us. It always has a good intention. It's our ego trying to protect us, but our soul doesn't need protection. It wants presence so it can speak to us. What have I been at? Here's another question. What have I been asking for that I might not yet feel safe enough to receive? Let that one land. What have I been seeking or asking for or longing to feel that I might not yet feel safe enough to receive? Am I safe enough to feel joy? Or am I so habituated and patterned to feel lack, sad, anxious, heavy? Can you feel the difference? The difference between this, open and receiving and allowing and magic, or anything can flow in abundance, and this. How do you receive from a closed fist? Can you become an empty vessel to receive? To receive is a deep feminine energy. It's something we as women are finally starting to return to. And it starts here. It starts with stillness. Deep feminine wisdom receives. When's the last time you received a compliment authentically? Thank you. Instead of, oh, dismissive. Oh, that, yeah, that happens all the time. Or they do that too, or whatever. Instead of just saying, thank you and receiving it because you know it's true. Thank you. What emotions have I unknowingly numbed out? So get curious here. Remember, I thought that I was numbing out my pain, and I had no idea that you don't get to pick and choose what you numb. What joy might be waiting for you on the other side of your fear, of your numb? If I were truly present, here's another question. If I were truly present in this moment, what beauty might I finally see, feel, or taste? Okay. So if anything feels stirred up, or if that stirred anything in you or resonated, please share. I'd love to have it in the comments if you're aware, if you're able. If not, I get it. I'm happy to show up here. And now, if anyone has any need for support, any questions, any desire to have some support around something that feels wonky in their life, something heavy or like a challenge or a pattern that they're noticing that they're wanting to change, maybe. If now is the time, if you want to raise your hand or come forward, and if not, I totally get that too. This is a safe space. And when someone shares, I don't know if you've been here in moments in some of the sessions when people have actually turned on their camera, asked the question, or had something that they wanted help with and support with. And it ended up being so beautiful for everyone that was here, because when we witness someone else turning towards versions of themselves to get more clarity, to hold those versions, it resonates because it's familiar with us. We're like, oh, I've felt that way too. This question is relevant to me too. And so when I start to give support to someone, it can actually heal you on deeper levels as well, simply because you're there witnessing them and it's resonating. It's energy. Everything's energy. So what is being held and healed in them suddenly resonates with you, and you're like, wow, you start to have deeper awareness, more light shining on places that have been a little bit shadowy. So I hope you know that. And that's always the invitation as you step into this space. So finally, I want to say I'm so proud of you for being here, for showing up, for choosing presence over, I don't know, I think for me, I think part of why I was numb is because I kept myself really, really busy over efforting performing. I was like a performing, and I didn't know I was performing. I was performing a role of the woman, the mom, the wife, all the things that I thought I needed to be because everyone told me so. But I never slowed down to turn in and tune in and check in with Noelle. How does that feel in your body when you're performing? It actually felt really gross, if I'm really honest. And I think that's why I feel like a new person because I finally slowed down and I got curious to ask question, is it really true that I should be ashamed to have believed this or thought this? Or is it really true that I am not safe or that I have to achieve to have value, that I can't make a mistake? Is that really true? I've worked with some of you here on this very same belief. It's very universal. We think it's so personal, and yet it's so collective and universal. It's kind of an archetypal thing. And when we start to heal it personally, guess what, you guys? It starts to heal collectively. And that's why this feels like a movement almost. The movement of gathering in spaces, creating safety for within these spaces so we can give and feel safety here and here. We are not broken. We are beginning to thaw. And this is holy, sacred work. Our mothers and our grandmothers and on backwards for generations, and our fathers and grandfathers, everyone, they didn't have the time. They were so busy surviving and providing for their their basic needs. We live in a day and age where we could get really caught up in being numb. We've all been there, right? But what if we brought presence back to every moment that we have, because we live in a day and age where we actually have the luxury of the illusion of more time, more spaciousness to be able to become the guest house for ourselves. Art, that wasn't really so possible when they were so busy surviving. But we stay in survival mode a lot, don't we? But what would happen if we were able to step into a little more stillness, a little more slow time, and become present? Not perfect, but make ourselves available to ourselves, to our body, to our life, to the beauty that's always waiting around us, to love, to joy, to yes, the orange or the chocolate or the gelato, or if it's maybe an almond croissant, a really good one from a delicious boulangerie. Okay. Thank you for showing up here. I see you, I believe in you, and I'm walking beside you always. Thank you for showing up. Namaste.